If you've ever listened to Dave Ramsey, one of the first things that he tells you to do to get control of your finances is to make and stick to a budget. And this irks me. It's one of the number one pieces of advice that people give: have a budget, stick to it. And the fact of the matter is that doesn't work for a lot of people. I'm a professional financial planner and I have never used a budget in my life. So today I'm going to tell you how you can take control of your expenses without having to have an Excel spreadsheet and put every expense you've made this month into it. Budgeting is really interesting because it's one of the aspects of finance that really has nothing to do with technical skill or numbers and everything to do with psychology. What you need to do is earn more than you spend. And people say that in order to earn more than you spend, budgets are the best tool to do so. So we're talking, you're going through every kind of expense that you have in a month and you're giving it a number. Let's say I'm going to budget $1,000 for rent, and I'm going to budget $100 for gas, and I'm going to budget $100 for food. These are imaginary numbers, so please don't make fun of me. And then that leaves me with $200 to save. And people say, okay, you put this down on paper and you track your expenses and you make sure you don't go over, and then it works, okay? Here's the big problem. Rent is going to remain pretty steady throughout the year, although your utilities might fluctuate. But let's say you go on a road trip and you go visit your mom and it's a 6-hour drive each way, okay? Your $100 gas budget all of a sudden is blown. Now you've spent $150 on gas. Let's say food-wise, eggs double in price one day and you eat a lot of eggs, and so all of a sudden you spent $125 on food. You have failed miserably at budgeting because you've just blown your budget on these two factors, despite the fact that you have done nothing wrong. What that does to you psychologically is it makes you feel like you've done something bad. And it's almost like when you're on a diet and you overeat one day, or you have a cheat meal one day, and then you just spiral out of control, you binge, or you just say, screw it, I'm gonna leave this diet. That's what happens to a lot of people when they budget, okay? So let's talk about what the alternative is if you're done budgeting or budgeting hasn't worked for you, okay? And that is tracking. Here's the thing. Your expenses are going to fluctuate every month, and you don't necessarily need to have a set dollar amount that you're going to put into each category like some of the gurus might tell you, but you do need to track. Now, there are a couple ways to do this. Number one, there are a lot of apps that a lot of people will try and sell you that claim to be able to track your expenses and categorize them and do everything automatically. Here's the reality of the apps. They all suck. I have tried a bunch of these apps and none of them accurately categorize all of your expenditures. And you end up having to go in and switch. It says that your gas money is rent money, and it says that your rent money is going towards groceries. And you spend basically just as much time fixing it in the app as you would have just tracking it manually. Okay? And tracking it manually does not mean that you have to put it in a spreadsheet. All that I want you to do is I want you to go into your banking app or your credit card app, and I want you to scroll through with your partner if you have one, and I want you to look at every dollar you've spent, and I want you to remember what that was for, okay? $23.14 at Chick-fil-A, okay, that was dinner with a friend. I spent $125 at Walmart, okay, those were my groceries. And I want you to go through and see exactly how much you've spent in different categories. And what this is going to reveal to you, tracking, not budgeting, is, okay, this month was a really big gas month. We did a lot of driving, and so that's why my spending is higher. And that may or may not be something that you want to change. It may or may not be a bad thing, but tracking is what makes you aware of it, and it's what gives you the ability to make changes as needed. But now you're asking, okay, so now I know what's wrong, but how am I actually going to fix it, okay? And this is where the next best thing comes in, which is the power of spending habits. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how good of a budget that you have. If you are not in the habit of being frugal, then you are going to have a very hard time building wealth, no matter what your income is. What do I mean by this? So let's say you make $15 an hour, okay? You got a decent job, you're working wherever it may be. Now, if you are making $15 an hour and you are in the habit, you are used to, let's say, shopping at Whole Foods. It doesn't matter how much you budget. If you try and make your grocery bill work on $15 an hour while you're shopping at Whole Foods, or while you're shopping at Walmart and buying all of the name brand nice stuff, then your budget is not going to work, okay? So instead of focusing on, I have $200 to spend on groceries and how do I make that work, focus on, okay, I'm gonna shop at Walmart instead of Whole Foods. And I'm gonna buy great value products instead of name brand products, which, by the way, almost 100% of the time are exactly the same. That's one habit. Another habit, I need to drive a new car, and this is one that gets a ton of people. About 20% of Americans have a car payment of over $1,000 a month. Now, there's nothing wrong with driving a new car, but if you are making $15 an hour and you are driving a new car, then you are gonna have a very, very difficult time getting wealthy. And so instead of worrying about, I have X dollars to spend, how can I spend it? Okay, we're gonna think, what would a frugal person do? We're gonna buy used old cars. Think your Honda Civic with 150,000 miles on it from 2005, and we're gonna pay for it in cash. So those are the things we're gonna focus on. We're gonna focus on tracking our spending, figuring out what's wrong, and changing our habits, instead of just putting a budget down and making it work that way. So now you know, budgeting is not the only option here, okay? You do need to know what's going on in your financial life. You need to track your spending, and you probably need to change your habits too if your goal is to get wealthy. But having a spreadsheet and tracking everything and having a budget and blowing it every other month isn't necessarily the best option for everybody. And so I hope this has been helpful for you in building out your financial life. If this was helpful, please take the time to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.